Episode number 31, Wave Cultivation. Of everything available in the Imperial Military Academy Network interfaces stars, the most expensive was not the wave artifacts but the techniques, with cultivation techniques reaching a sky-high price. After taking a moment to get over the excitement, Kane went into the network and searched for the Fiend Devourer cultivation technique, and the price shocked him. It was worth 3,500 Imperial military credits. Almost 4 times more than a high bronze wave artifact like his kinetic gauntlets. Until now, Kane had been using the soldier cultivation technique, which only guided his cultivation up to level 4. That severely limited him, although, to be fair, going from level 3 to level 4 was a significant bottleneck, which would mean the end of most people's path of power. Kane was sure he wanted this new cultivation technique, but just as he was about to brand it and access its information, he heard Apex's voice.
Not so fast.
Kane froze as he heard Apex's voice and did not dare to brand the silver orb.
What happened? Is there a hidden threat?
As he got over the shock, coldness appeared in Kane's eyes as he guessed that Levi had left a trap in the silver orb.
Don't let your imagination fly, brat. There is no trap or anything else inside the silver orb. It is just that I want to try something. Wait for a moment.
Kane felt waves after waves of electrogenic energy emerge from his hand and enter the silver orb. It went on for 5 minutes before he heard Apex again.
I guess it would not be this easy.
Apex's words confused Kane, but this one clarified things the next second.
I wanted to use basic hacking to get the information about the cultivation technique without the need to brand it. That way you could sell it later on. Unfortunately, the AI chip module lacks the strength to do it. If your soul force were higher, things might be different.
When Kane heard that, he also sighed. Although he knew hacking the silver orb should break some rules, it harmed no one and no one would find out. If that was the case, why not do it and get an extra 1750 Imperial military credits?
I could use Destiny Force to temporarily improve the might of the AI chip module, which should be enough to hack the silver orb. It would only cost 3 points.
Kane smiled for a moment before sighing again.
I only have 0.2 points. Your understanding of Destiny is still too shallow, brat. Check out your Destiny Force.
Kane's eyes widened when he heard that, and without hesitation, he commanded the system to show him his Destiny Force. Destiny Force, 16.7.
How did my destiny grow so much? I did not kill anyone, improve my talent, or get a high upgrade in my cultivation.
Destiny was too ethereal, and even after Apex's explanation, Kane still failed to understand it truly.
Brat, you survived the military academy secret trial, stood firm against all those other cadets drawing the attention of influential people, obtained an excellent cultivation technique, and gained fame through the Collapsin Lightning Military Academy ranking. Something would be wrong with the universe if your destiny did not improve after all that.
Kane's eyes widened as a flash of enlightenment appeared in them. Destiny was much more than just brute power.
Now, do you want to spend 3 points of Destiny Force to hack the silver orb?
There was no hesitation in Kane's mind as he accepted that trade. Although he needed to save Destiny Force to get rid of his bloodline's flaw, basic genetic suppression, cost 50 points, so he would rather get the 1750 Imperial military credits now. There was no point in saving wealth if he perished before he could use it.
Do it.
Vessel wants to spend 3 points of Destiny Force to temporarily enhance AI chip module. The robotic voice of the Absolute Life Form system appeared in Kane's mind, and as soon as this one nodded, his Destiny Force diminished by 3 points. The next moment, the electromagnetic force that emerged from his palm grew exponentially more potent. Apex hacked the silver orb and transferred all the information into Kane's AI chip module. Kane did not lose time and immediately started analyzing the information. The introduction was somewhat similar to the soldier cultivation technique, but this one was much more detailed and profound. The first rank of wave cultivation took the name of Wave Warrior. At this rank, the body rebirth path of power and essence evolution path of power follow similar routes. From levels 1 to 3, the wave cultivator would draw life wave into their sacred organs, refine it, and then use it to form meridians. those meridians will emerge from the rebirth hot, in the case of those following the astral rebirth path of power, and from the evolution ka for those that took the essence evolution path of power. The meridians will encompass all the thorax viscera and work as a circulatory system for wave, just like veins and arteries with blood. A wave cultivator only needed to supply life wave to their sacred organs, which would handle the meridians' formation on their own up to level 3. However, to advance to level 4, the wave cultivator had to guide the meridians and make it so that they penetrated inside the bones. That process was incredibly complicated, and only those with a solid foundation could take it, since weak meridians could never achieve that feat. After your meridians have penetrated the bones, to enter level 5, you must brack them and make it so that they reach the muscles. Once you enter level 6, your meridians would have fully pierced your skin, allowing the distribution of your wave from the sacred organ to the outside many times faster. Next came level 7, which involved branching your meridians again, generating an entirely new set that would originate in your skin and return to your sacred organ. At that point, your entire body automatically drew life wave from the surroundings, making your recovery speed much faster. At level 7, a wave warrior could try to evolve to the next rank and become a wave champion. The amount of power they have is extraordinary, with some achieving supersonic speed. When Kane read the last part, he was shocked. Even the most modest estimate of supersonic speed would mean that someone could move 343 meters per second. The Fiend Devourer cultivation technique had 2 more levels for Wave Warrior. You did not need to take them, and entering them was even more challenging than evolving into a Wave Champion, but they would help you solidify your foundation. After increasing his knowledge about cultivation, Kane focused on the uniqueness of the Fiend Devourer cultivation technique. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 32, I Am Sorry. Kane adopted a meditate position and began to train in the Fiend Devourer cultivation technique. He would have to start from the first level of the cultivation technique despite being already a level 2 wave warrior. Of course, the process would be much faster since his cultivation was higher. The Fiend Devourer cultivation technique taught him how to make his meridians wider and thicker, allowing them to contain more astral wave and for this one to flow faster. That, of course, translated into a higher amount of wave needed for each level, but that is where the uniqueness of the Fiend Devourer cultivation technique came into action. It allowed humans to consume flesh and blood from dark races, wave warriors, and obtained refined astral or essence wave from them. Kane followed the instructions of the cultivation technique and gathered his astral wave inside his stomach, making it revolve faster and faster. Once the astral wave reached a temperature that made Kane feel his intestine was ablaze, he took something from his military backpack. He took not a heart, but a container where all the blood dripping from them had gathered thanks to the backpack's special filters. There was no need to use something so packed with astral wave like the heart for the first pot. Kane felt sick when he first consumed that blood, but that burning astral wave purified it. Soon the new energy reached the meridian formed during level 1, improving them. Other than eating and sleeping, Kane did nothing else until it was time to go to his first class. He was about to leave when he noticed the drone waiting for him in the corner of his room. The armor. His training had engrossed him so much that he almost forgot about the armor. He opened the drone and found a black orb almost twice larger than the one containing his kinetic gauntlets. Without hesitation, he accessed the information inside the Wave artifact. Wave artifact branded through AI chip module, displaying information. Name, Nullity Armor. Grade, High Bronze. Details, artifact meant for astral wave warriors, able to enhance wave's density around the body, improving physical defenses. Active ability. Nullity, by consuming significant amounts of astral wave, the armor can project a force field capable of nullifying a percentage of the strength behind an attack by wave warriors. Attacks with level 3 battle power would find 85% of their damage nullified. Attacks with level 5 battle power would find 35% of their damage nullified. Attacks with level 7 battle power would find 12% of their damage nullified. Kane smiled as he sent his astral wave into the black orb, making this one melt before reaching his back and forming a metallic structure protecting his spine. That was its inactive state, but it would take less than a second to be ready for battle. It did not take long for Kane to exit his home, and then he followed the instructions through the AI chip module to reach the building where the class would take place. The building was an auditorium, and many cadets were already seated. Kane looked around and noticed that many of the cadets that took the Military Academy secret trial with him were in the auditorium. There were around 200 people in total, and there were none that did not manifest a dangerous aura. I see, so we were divided according to our skill. I guess it makes sense. After all, it would be pointless for someone who had yet to enter level 1 Wave Warrior to have the same classes as me. He noticed that most people were in groups, but some sat alone. Like in the secret trial, Levi's aura rejected those around him, and while the cadets glanced at him from time to time, none dared to get closer. Kane found an empty seat in an area without many cadets and sat down. He did not think of sitting beside Levi since even if he had a good impression of this one, calling it a friendship would be an overstatement. All of a sudden, Kane noticed an uproar in the auditorium as everybody focused on the entrance. He also did it, and what he saw shocked him. At the entrance stood a beautiful woman. She had a small face, sky-blue eyes, and short white hair. There was not a question in Kane's mind that the woman was the most gorgeous he had ever seen in his life. Fuck! Kane almost yelled that word as he felt his blood burning. His emotional instability did not just affect him when he was full of wrath. Lust could also do the trick. He rose from his seat so fast that it almost sent it flying away, drawing everybody's attention. The woman also turned to Kane, and when she saw those eyes full of unrestrained lust, a monstrous coldness appeared on her face. She was not just a pretty face. Anyone who thought that would surely regret it. Kane felt a powerful desire to jump toward the woman, but before taking a step, he bit his tongue with so much strength that blood filled his mouth. The pain allowed Kane to regain his focus, but his previous actions had already made a ruckus. Many men looked at him with mockery, while the women showed disgust. Those gazes reminded Kane of his time in school, but instead of feeling depressed, a smile appeared on his face. I have grown. Unlike in school, he did not ignore those eyes full of disdain. There was no need since they could not affect him. However, Kane soon focused, and a stern expression appeared as he approached the woman. The woman's coldness did not vanish, and she saw how Kane stopped 10 feet away from her. Kane looked at her directly before bowing and shouting so loud that his voice echoed through the entire auditorium.
I am sorry for my rude behavior.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 33, Wave Champion.
I am sorry for my rude behavior.
Those words echoed through the entire auditorium, and everybody heard them clearly. The one most surprised by those words was the beautiful girl. It was normal for men to lust over her. Even when they did their best to hide it, she always knew it. Of course, once they faced the girl's cold and indomitable aura, they would shrink and remain silent. Some would apologize when caught, but they always did it in secrecy away from the eyes of the public, and even then, it was clear they had a hidden agenda. Never before had she encountered someone like Kane who would apologize in public and whose words were full of sincerity. There was no hidden meaning, nor was he trying to get closer to her through them. He sincerely regretted his rude behavior and immediately apologized. A wisp of interest appeared in the girl's eyes as she saw how Kane straightened his body and turned around. Kane apologized to the woman because he was sure being stared at like a piece of meat must have been aggravating. His father always told him that a true man recognized his mistakes and did his best to fix them. After returning to his seat, Kane felt that the eyes of everybody remained in him, and he allowed some of his bloodline's wildness to emerge.
What the fuck are you looking at?
Those imposing words and Kane's savagery made most cadets look away. Of course, some powerful scions remained focused on him, like Zamia, but Kane did not back down. A burst of laughter broke the tense atmosphere in the auditorium, and everybody saw how Levi stood up from his seat and approached Kane.
Is this seat taken?
Kane was slightly surprised by Levi's actions, but since there was no reason to say no, he just shook his head. Levi sat down and stretched his hand toward Kane, to which this one responded, and they shook them. The Duke seemed about to speak when something that drew surprise in the entire auditorium happened. The Duke felt how the cadets' gazes focused on them, but after a moment, they saw it was actually on the beautiful girl that had just sat at Kane's left. She did not say a word and just sat there, completely ignoring the stares of the rest of the cadets. However, she did look at Kane and Levi after a moment.
What, do you two have a problem with me sitting here?
Kane and Levi immediately shook their heads. They had no reason to reject her. It was just that they were surprised since they had never spoken before and were sure that the actions of the first had offended her. Before any more chatter or commotion could happen in the auditorium, everybody saw a skinny, middle-aged man approach the podium. As soon as he did, a giant virtual screen appeared above him. Kane's eyes narrowed as he saw that middle-aged man. He could feel an immense power inside that skinny body, much greater than his.
My name is Wink, and I will be your teacher for wave mastery. I will start with some basics and explain the main difference between those that follow the astral rebirth path of power and the essence evolution path of power.
Wink had just finished speaking when a noble youth began to shout.
What do you think you are doing? We all took private lessons before coming here and learned about the basics. What is the point of wasting time on them?
Many other cadets surrounded the scion that shouted, and there was a smug smile on his face. Clearly, he wanted to draw attention, but things didn't go as he expected. Wink did not show anger, nor did he raise his voice. He only lifted a finger and aimed at the scion.
H.
The scion began to cry the next second as a bloody hole appeared on his shoulder. Terror, shock, and awe appeared in the eyes of all the cadets as they saw that, or more accurately, they did not see it. None of the cadets saw the attack. Their eyes only perceived Wink pointing at the scion's shoulder before a bloody hole appeared in it. Their hearts grew cold as they imagined what would have happened if the middle-aged man had pointed at the youth's head. Kane was equally shocked as the other cadets, but he saw how Levi and the cold beauty by his side reacted differently. Levi saw the curiosity in Kane's eyes and sent a message through his AI chip. User Levi Inferno wants to establish a communication channel. Does Vessel accept? Kane immediately accepted, and the next second he heard Levi's voice in his mind through the AI chip module.
For someone to accurately teach wave warriors about wave mastery, that person could not be in the same rank.
Although Levi did not say the words, Kane understood their meaning, and a solemn expression appeared on his face as he stared at Wink. That skinny, middle-aged man was a monster that could live for hundreds of years and tear down old-world skyscrapers with his bare hands. The reason no one saw that attack was simple. It moved faster than sound. If that middle-aged man wanted, he could kill anyone here with a wave of his hand. A wave champion. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 34, for Wave Arts.
Those who interrupt me will be disciplined. There will be time for questions at the end of the class. Until then, remain quiet.
Wink spoke with a lazy voice, but no one dared to utter a single word in his presence. Kane's eyes could not help but glow as he saw the change in the auditorium. That display of power was better than any speech.
Now the basics about the astral rebirth path and essence evolution path of power.
The virtual screen above Wink showed two identical humanoid figures. However, one had wave emerging from his rebirth heart, while the other emerged from the evolution core.
Astral wave is known for its brute power and the incredible degree to which it can temper the mortal body. It not only improves your offense and defense, but also grants immense stamina and regeneration's abilities.
The virtual screen focused on the man with a dark purple aura. Everybody saw simulations where this one destroyed huge buildings with his hands and resisted the might of tornadoes and other natural disasters with nothing but his bare body.
Those following this path can fight for much longer than their essence evolution counterparts. Wounds that could prove deadly for an essence wave warrior would only leave the astral wave warrior temporarily incapacitated. The Empire Science Academy stated that astral wave cultivators are stronger than essence wave cultivators. Of course, that is during the battlefield, and in a one-on-one battle, things are not so simple.
Next, the virtual screen focused on the humanoid with the sky blue aura.
People who follow the essence evolution path of power have an easier path than those that follow the astral rebirth path of power. For starters, our talent doesn't need to depend on our lineage. We can constantly improve it through several methods, the simplest being the perception and understanding of the elements and natural phenomena.
On the virtual screen, the cadet saw how the humanoid stood in the center of a wildfire. And soon, his essence wave began to burn with the same intensity while at the same time growing mightier.
Essence wave lacks the physical enhancement and vitality of astral wave, but it improves our connection with the wave in its raw state, allowing us to comprehend it. Not to mention that essence wave can mutate into different powers and elements with little effort, unlike astral wave. There is also the fact that essence wave cultivation can use it to fire long-distance attacks, something highly complex for astral wave cultivators.
That information was something almost every present already knew, but was new for Kane. Both paths of power had unique qualities, and depending on how you use them, it would determine the battle's outcome. Thinking that an astral wave warrior could defeat an essence wave warrior as long as they were at the same level was extremely naive. Cyan saw how the virtual screen above Wink changed for the second time, and now the humanoids began to fight. They stood 100 meters apart. When the battle started, the essence wave cultivator immediately began to shoot fireballs while keeping the distance between him and the opponent. The essence wave cultivator initially restrained the astral wave cultivator, forcing this one to dodge the fireballs while shrinking the distance. It was hard at the beginning, and some attacks landed, leaving ugly burn wounds. The astral wave cultivator persevered and reduced the distance to less than 3 meters. That was nothing, and he could send a blow with ease. However, the essence wave cultivator stumped the ground at the last second, generating a large wall of fire in front of him that rose for more than 10 meters. Unfortunately for the essence wave cultivator, the astral wave cultivator lunged past the wall, granting him horrible injuries, but also giving him the chance to land a devastating blow. The essence wave cultivator could do nothing, and a punch carrying a horrible power landed square on his chest, sending him flying away while puking blood.
As you can see, the battle's outcome was not determined by their path of power, but by their tenacity. Had the astral wave cultivator not dared to cross the wall of fire, the essence wave cultivator would have had time to put distance between them and give the final blow.
Wink gave the class a moment to process his words before carrying on.
For those that follow the astral rebirth path of power, you must keep in your mind the word foundation. As for those that follow the essence evolution path of power, remember that the key to advance is your perception.
After explaining the basics, Wink again modified the virtual screen, and 4 humanoids appeared this time.
Now I will explain the 4 wave arts. You have already come in contact with these arts and they will accompany you forever. Even godlike life forms like Titan must train them. I am talking about wave cloak, wave burst, wave focus, and wave transmutation.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 35, Wave Cloak. Kane's attention reached a peak as he heard Wink's description. He already practiced Wave Cloak and Wave Burst in the Military Academy secret trial, but his understanding of wave focus and wave transmutation was almost null.
First, I will start with wave cloak. You all understand it as releasing our wave out of our sacred organs before forming a protective mantle around our bodies. Practically everybody who becomes a level 1 wave warrior knows how to deploy this art. According to the Empire Science Academy, the reason for that is a genetically specified latent memory, similar to the one in birds that allow them to fly.
Many in the auditorium could not help but open their eyes as they heard that information. The last part regarding the genetic factor was something some Cyans from lower nobles' families were unaware of. The virtual screen above Wink focused on one humanoid who unleashed Wave Cloak. It manifested as a flaming, colorless aura.
First of all, the most basic and primordial training of Wave Cloak is to make it evenly distributed around the body and condense it. That is called synergy flow.
As soon as Wink spoke those words, the Wave Cloak in the humanoid stopped its erratic movements. Slowly, it began to rotate evenly around the body while condensing, reducing its length.
In that state, not only are our wave defensive capabilities improved, but the amount we needed to maintain wave cloak active is lesser, allowing us to fight for more time.
After those words, the screen above Wink showed a melee battle between a human that mastered Synergy Flow and one that did not. The victor was obvious, but the fact that the first overwhelmed the other surprised many.
The second training of Wave Cloak is called Free Flow. It allows our wave to lose its defined state, letting it flow freely. This exercise enables us to push our wave to its limits, slowly improving its quantity and thickness, despite not having improved our cultivation. Think of it as body training. When once the muscle is pushed to the limit and allowed to recover, it will grow larger despite the number of muscle fibers not changing.
Unlike before, the screen this time did not change, and everybody saw how Wink's wave cloak manifested. It was sky blue, and the amount of essence wave in it was roughly that of a level 4 wave warrior. It was clear that the middle-aged man was not showing his true power. The one thing that drew the cadets' attention was how dense and evenly distributed the essence wave was.
It is better to show it in person if you want to understand the battle use of free flow.
Wink said nothing else, and his wave cloak lost its defined state, transforming into a fog that covered the entire auditorium. All the cadets frowned, since the essence wave in that fog state exerted tremendous pressure on them, similar to the pressure of being at the bottom of a river. Their bodies felt incredibly uncomfortable, and things only worsened as Wink began unleashing more of his essence wave. Soon it reached the point where the cadets had to trigger their wave cloak to resist, and that was all they could do. Fighting in that state was impossible. Some of the cadets failed to control their nausea and puked. Luckily, small drones would come and pick it up as soon as it happened. Wink retracted his essence wave after a minute. By then, all the cadets had cold sweat running through their backs. They were more than 200 so-called geniuses, but Wink could have killed them without moving a muscle. That showed the power of a wave champion and the might of free flow.
Free flow is also an exercise all of you should master. Not only will it improve your wave, but its use on the battlefield and against crowds is phenomenal.
Wink gave the cadets a few minutes to rest as he saw that some almost fell unconscious. Had he continued for longer, there was a good chance he would have killed them. After 10 minutes, and seeing that most cadets regained their focus, Wink continued.
Now I will teach you directed flow for the final wave cloak exercise. Its essence is enshrouding an object with your wave, enhancing its offensive and defensive capabilities. Due to its malleability, Essence Wave is much more suitable for it. This ability is key in using Essence Wave artifacts like swords and daggers, so all Essence Wave warriors must pay special attention to this exercise. Astral Wave warriors cannot neglect it. Directed flow has excellent uses, and if you grasp it, there is nothing that would stop you from using melee wave artifacts. Of course, you should first master a weapon to the same level as your arms, or else there would be no point in it.
The virtual screen above Wink focused on the humanoid with the wave cloak again, and everybody saw how a sword appeared in his hand. Slowly, the wave cloak that was limited to his body expanded to the sword. Next, the virtual screen saw how two humanoids carrying swords fought. One of them used directed flow, while the other did not. The weapon clad in wave broke the other in less than 10 strikes. Wink saw how the might of directed flow failed to impress the class as free flow did, so he waved his hand, and a small steel marble appeared in it. He pawed his essence wave into the steel marble before throwing it against a wall.
Boom!
An explosion that resembled that of a tank cannon echoed through the room. The steel marble encrusted itself in the wall, and massive cracks appeared around it.
If you can pour enough wave in an object, even a simple steel marble could compare with a cannonball.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 36, 1000% Wave Burst.
As you can see, we Essence Wave cultivators can achieve the same brute destructive might that Astral Wave cultivators.
When Wink spoke those words, many cadets could not help but show a smile on their faces. They chose the Essence evolution path of power, but were still youths, so the idea of unleashing destructive power made their blood burn.
Of course, if an Astral Wave cultivator managed to master directed flow to my same level, and injected the same amount of wave into that steel ball, that person would have pierced the wall. After all, they would have combined their physical might plus the enhanced object.
Now it was the time for the other cadets to show smiles. They all understand that to match an essence wave cultivator in directed flow was incredibly difficult, but it did not stop them from adopting cocky attitudes.
Now those are the 3 basic exercises of Wave Cloak that you all shall practice. Every time you raise the amount of your wave, you will have to perfect them again, meaning they will accompany you forever on your paths of power.
Wink gave a couple of minutes for the entire class to digest the information he had just passed them before the virtual screen above him focused on the second humanoid.
Now I will explain Wave Burst.
Unlike when Wink began with Wave Cloak, this time there was not a single cadet that did not pay full attention to his words from the beginning.
Now the principle behind Wave Burst is straightforward. You improve the output of wave, enhancing your Wave Cloak and all that came with it.
Everybody saw how the humanoid in the virtual screen deployed Wave Cloak. On the humanoid right side, the cadets also saw a bar signaling the amount of wave, which was decreasing steadily. Next, the humanoid used Wave Burst to increase the amount of wave leaving the sacred organ. That made the Wave Cloak almost double in size, but the rate at which it depleted nearly tripled.
Wave Burst improves not only our physical might, but also the speed at which we can deploy spells and their power. However, as all of you that have used it should know, there are drawbacks.
The virtual image on the screen focused on the edge of the bursting Wave Cloak, and the cadets saw how some wave left and dispersed.
During Wave Burst, it is harder to control our wave, increasing its depletion due to the higher output and our inability to keep it inside our Wave Cloak.
Wink's words made it clear to everybody why the amount of wave in the humanoid reduced so fast. All the cadets had used Wave Burst, but none ever felt wave loss like that.
There is also the physical stress put on our bodies. Our body automatically regulates the might of our Wave Cloak when we unleash it, so it doesn't exert more pressure than it can safely handle. During Wave Burst, we ignore that limitation, affecting our stamina.
Kane could not help but nod as he heard that explanation. He remembered how tired it felt to use Wave Burst and the soreness of his muscles.
Now that I explain the drawbacks of Wave Burst, I will demonstrate its might.
Those words pushed the cadets' attention to their peak. Wink's demonstrations were visually striking, and they were sure this one would not be different. A Wave Cloak covered Wink's body, and the amount in it was not impressive at all.
I regulated the wave in my body to be around the same as a newly advanced level 3 Wave Warrior. Now I will show you 200% Wave Burst.
Wink's Wave Cloak improved its power. It was still far from being shocking, but what happened next showed everybody how mighty Wave Burst was.
400%.
As soon as Wink uttered those words, the Wave Cloak grew even mightier, and it was far from over.
600%.
The air inside the auditorium began to move chaotically due to the might of Wink's bursting Wave Cloak.
800%.
Wink's Wave Cloak was so powerful that the platform beneath his feet was trembling.
I have currently unleashed a Wave Cloak that could match that of a level 4 Wave Warrior, who themselves is using a basic Wave Burst.
That statement made the eyes of the cadets show some level of shock. Everybody already knew that from level 3 to level 4, there was a significant watershed that many could not pass. Wink saw how the entire class was now full of expectation, and he did not disappoint.
1000%. Boom.
A minor shock wave occurred when Wink unleashed 1000% Wave Burst, and cracks appeared beneath his feet.
In this state, I have the power to kill a newly advanced level 4 Wave Warrior, incapable of deploying 200% Wave Burst in a direct battle.
Although it would not be inconceivable for a level 3 Wave Warrior to defeat someone at level 4, that was if they used sneak attacks and the likes. Winning in a direct battle was impossible. Or at least that was what Kane thought until he saw the might that 1000% Wave Burst could unleash.
The time a level 3 Wave Warrior could fight in 1000% Wave Burst was extremely short, not to mention their bodies would crumble unless they were training some high-grade auxiliary technique. I must also say how hard it is to surpass 400% Wave Burst. Using the full power of my Wave Cloak, I can barely reach 350% wave burst.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 37, Wave Focus. Wink gave the class a few minutes to assimilate the new information before carrying on.
Due to the astral rebirth path of power's sacred organ being the heart, which increases its functions according to the body's requirement on its own, it is easier for Astral Wave Cultivator to master wave burst.
Wink's explanation made perfect sense for the cadets. The rebirth heart had always regulated the body's blood flow, increasing it when needed, so it was not odd for it to increase the output of wave more efficiently than the evolution core.
As for the flaw regarding our inability to keep all the wave inside the wave cloak during wave burst, that is where combining the arts came into place.
The cadets saw how the virtual screen above Wink showed two humanoids. One was using wave burst, while the other trained in synergy flow. Next, both figures fused, and the class saw how the bursting wave cloak grew thicker and its edge denser.
By mastering synergy flow while using wave burst, we can limit the amount of wave dispersed. Of course, training synergy flow while your wave cloak is bursting is much harder.
Shortly after that, the virtual screen focused on the third humanoid.
Now that we are over with wave burst, it is time to tackle wave focus. This art's main principle is focusing our wave on a single point. If done during wave cloak, we will enhance a specific part while diminishing the amount covering the rest of the body.
The virtual screen showed how the humanoid used wave cloak before increasing the amount in the right fist. That made the wave covering the rest of the body grow thinner, diminishing the amount of protection it could provide.
That is the most basic use of wave focus, and one that astral wave cultivators must master as it heavily influences a melee battle. However, you are sorely mistaken if you think wave focus is just that.
Wink raised his right hand and opened it, showing the palm to the cadets before cutting it with his left index finger. The cut was deep to the point it almost reached the bone. The virtual screen above them showed a magnified version of the palm, making the edges of the cut clear for everybody.
Pay attention to the screen and see the might of wave focus.
Wink said nothing else before his essence wave began to gather in the wound, and not long after, under the awed gaze of the cadets, the cut started to heal with speed visible to the naked eye. It took Wink less than a minute to heal that wound.
I used wave focus to speed up the regeneration process by giving the tissue more vitality and hyperactivating the red blood cells.
Next, Wink focused his essence wave into his eyes and focused on the cadets, making all of them feel that this one could see every corner of their bodies.
If I focus my wave into my eyes and the optical nerve, my eyesight improves to a level surpassing that of old world's telescopes, and the same goes for my other senses, such as smell and hearing.
The cadets understood the might of wave focus after that description and how amazingly useful it was, both in battle and out of it.
Wave focus can also be used for defense, as we can enhance the amount of wave in our arms before using them to cover our bodies from an attack. Those in higher cultivation ranks can deploy extremely refined uses of this art, which are incredibly powerful.
Wink saw the cadets' attention had peaked and proceeded to deploy a level 3 wave cloak and 200% wave burst. Then, under the utterly shocked sight of the cadets, all that wave focused on his right hand.
If I conjure a fireball using my right hand, it will be several times more potent than if I were to do it without wave focus. And a level 3 astral wave warrior would have enough strength to land a blow that could surpass the defenses of someone at level 5.
Silence reigned in the auditorium as the cadets heard Wink's words. They could not help but wonder how powerful could mastering wave focus could make you. Of course, in that state, the rest of their body was defenseless, but did not using traps and ambushes solve that? As long as they land one blow, it would be game over for the enemy.
That was wave focus. There is no difference between the speed of training of astral and essence wave cultivators regarding this art. It all depends on your individual talent and hard work. Now I will explain the last of the 4 basic wave arts, wave transmutation.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 38, Wave Transmutation. The virtual screen above Wink focused on the lost humanoid. This one first triggered Wave Cloak, then used Wave Burst, and finally employed Wave Focus to concentrate most of his wave in his right hand before finally shooting a fireball.
That is wave transmutation. In a nutshell, it is the conversion of our wave into something else. It can be simple elemental forces like lightning, fire, water, or even more complex like gold or poison.
Wink raised his hand and focused Essence Wave in it before making fire, water, and even earth appear.
This art plays a fundamental part in the use of spells. Not only does it improve our proficiency in them, but it also diminishes the amount of wave we need to use them. Of course, although anyone could change their wave into flames, someone that does it following the principles taught in a technique can show much greater destructive power.
The wave in Wink's hand transformed once again into a ball of fire, but while the amount of wave was the same, the power in it was greater.
When it comes to proficiency in this art, Essence Wave cultivators have a much higher innate talent, which can increase even more as our cultivation advances and our perception develops.
Those words did not surprise anyone. Essence Wave lacked the enhanced vitality and durability of Astral Wave, but it was more malleable, so it made sense for it to be easier to transmute.
Astral Wave cultivators usually focus on the element related to their lineage since, at least in it, they do not fall behind their counterparts. Some with powerful lineages can even transmute their wave at an intuitive level.
Cain nodded as he heard that. Among the skills learned after obtaining his lightning lupus lineage, there was lightning conversion. Transforming his astral wave into lightning was not hard, but he found it highly challenging to do it with any other element. As for things like poison or gold, that was simply impossible for the current Cain.
Those are the 4 basic wave arts. As all of you should understand by now, the word basic is not a reference to their power, but the fact that everything else emerges from them. They are the essence of spell casting and any battle style.
Wink waved his hand after that, and all the cadets received a file through their AI chips.
In that file is all the information I just gave you about wave mastery. While you have it at your disposal at all times, sharing it without consent from the Imperial military force is a crime. Now put some distance between yourself, and we will train synergy flow, free flow, and directed flow. There are 3 hours left, and we will use 1 for each exercise. I will monitor you and advise you when I see the need for it.
Cain, Levi, and the Cold Beauty stood up and moved away before unleashing their wave cloaks. The men's wave was dark purple, but the woman was sky blue, meaning she followed the essence evolution path of power. Cain did not lose time and immediately focused. According to Wink's teachings, synergy flow consists in making your wave dense and evenly distributed. The file mentioned it would help you think of your wave as a river. It was a wild force you needed to use your mind to bring into order, making it steadily revolve around your body while condensing it. Cain's wave cloak gradually lost its flaming state, becoming more defined and smaller. Wink advised some cadets and guided those that were having difficulty. Despite his seemingly carefree attitude, he was very diligent in his work. After an hour passed, it was time to exercise free flow. Cain found it a little easier than synergy flow, as he only needed to focus on making his astral wave expand as far as possible. According to the file, it was good to visualize your wave cloak as a pool of water losing its atomic density and transforming into vapor. The auditorium filled with dark purple and sky blue fog during the next hour as the cadets trained free flow. Since they were all level 2 wave warriors, none of them felt discomfort by the wave of the others. Finally, it was the turn of the cadets to train in directed flow. Everybody got a small steel marble, and the goal was to extend their wave cloak into it flawlessly. As expected, Essence Wave cultivators had a much easier time in directed flow than Astral Wave cultivators. Cain managed to extend his wave cloak into the steel marble, but he constantly had to focus on it, and a lot of astral wave dispersed due to his inability to control it once it left his body.
Okay, that is all for today.
Wink's voice echoed through the auditorium, and all the cadets sat. All those youths were exhausted, but they were also smiling. The cadets felt that their mastery over Wave Cloak had increased significantly, As long as they kept training synergy flow, free flow, and directed flow, their power would increase even if their cultivation did not. Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 39, Beals. Cain, Levi, and the Cold Beauty had just risen from their seats as Wink left the auditorium when they saw a youth walking toward them. He was a man with black hair, almost 1 meter and 80 centimeters tall. It was impressively tall, considering the youth was just 14 years old. And that was not all, as the Scion's skin was green. Those characteristics would have been considered a disease in the old world, but the Godslayer humankind thought differently. Clearly, the Scion had a powerful bloodline running through his veins. Neither Cain nor Levi recognized the green youth, but they saw a familiar face in one of the people walking behind him. Among the 3 people following this one, there was Zamia. Cain and Zamia locked eyes, and the second showed a vicious smile for a moment before regaining his composure. Although Cain did not know what this was about, he got a hint when the green youth did not even bother to look at him and instead focused on Levi and the Cold Beauty.
I am Lumia Huron, second son of Count Huron. I will advise you two to stay with your own kind.
Lumia did not lower his voice, so he soon became the center of attention for the entire auditorium. Cain's eyes grew cold as he heard those words and saw the disdain with which Lumia treated him. Of course, Cain did not care about the green Scion taking him into the nobles' social circle, but the way Lumia spoke made it seem he was not worthy of breathing the same air. Levi only smiled when he heard those words, and the Cold Beauty remained indifferent.
Oh, and what will happen if I choose to do the opposite?
Lumia's eyes narrowed when he saw Levi's carefree attitude.
You are of noble breed, mixing up with commoners lowers not only yourself but all of us.
Levi's smile grew wider as he heard those words, but everybody felt how the auditorium temperature began to rise. It was clear those words upset him.
I did not know you could be lower than a piece of shit.
Those words surprised not only Lumia but everybody else, since the way Levi put it, all nobles were shit. Lumia also grew furious as he heard Levi's words, but he did not lose his composure and instead turned toward the Cold Beauty. A flash of lust appeared in his eyes, but he hid it quickly.
My lady, do you share the same thoughts as this heathen?
Everybody focused on the Cold Beauty, including Cain and Levi. The Jew knew almost nothing about her, so they could not help but be curious. Having the eyes of more than 200 people on her did not disturb the Cold Beauty. She looked at Lumia and showed a pleasant smile.
Status is extremely important, and everyone should focus on it.
Cain and Levi were slightly disappointed when they heard that, unlike Lumia, who showed a radiant smile. However, before the green youth could open his mouth again, the Cold Beauty spoke again.
Of course, I am referring to the status you earned with your own effort, and not one passed down to you. Your so-called status is only due to your whorish mother opening her legs and letting your father hump her.
Silence reigned for a moment, as none of the cadets could believe that such a refined girl like the Cold Beauty could utter such outlandish words.
Tahohed.
Cain and Levi began to laugh with so much strength that it almost made them shed tears. And while they were the only ones that did not bother to hide it, many other cadets in the auditorium giggled. Lumia's eyes twitched. He came with such grandeur, and the only thing he got was becoming a laughingstock.
You dare to insult my family, you little WH.
Lumia roared with rage, but he was unable to finish his sentence, and much less take a step toward the Cold Beauty, as he felt 2 pairs of eyes focused on his neck and chest. Cain and Levi had stopped laughing, and their eyes were full of killing intent as they targeted Lumia's neck and heart. Lumia did not doubt that the Jew would attack him full of murderous intent if he dared to carry on. He was confident in facing each of them alone, but he might die if Cain and Levi attacked simultaneously without regard for the consequences. Of course, there were more Scions behind him. Each was a level 2 wave warrior, but that would mean starting an unprovoked fight and going against the Imperial Military Academy's rules.
HMPH.
Lumia did not dare to bet and just sneered at the trio before walking out of the auditorium.
Oh, my heroes.
Cain and Levi could not help but puff up their chests with pride when they heard those words coming from the cold beauty, but when they turned and saw the expression on her face, it was clear she was mocking them. The duo felt embarrassed for the childish behavior, but immediately shook their heads and got over it.
I could have handled that garbage easily, but thanks for having my back either way. My name is Beals.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates. Episode number 40, Rasman. Cain's eyes narrowed as he heard the cold beauty's name.
Wait, your name is Beals, like in Beelzebub.
Biblical names were not only not strange, but pretty standard in the Godslayer Hue-making due to the name of the first titan of Godslayer humankind, Adam. Cain himself was a perfect example, but Beelzebub was a demon in the old world, so he found it odd and was not alone as Levi thought the same. Beals noticed the weird look the Jew gave her, and some irritation appeared on her face.
Stinky geezer.
She spoke those words quietly, but Cain and Levi heard it. Clearly, she also did not like the name her father gave her too much.
What, do you have something to say about my name?
Cain and Levi immediately shook their heads as they saw the piercing gaze of Beals. Even if they were 10 times braver, they would not dare to mock the girl's name.
Anyway, I am Levi and he is Cain. We should leave.
Cain and Beals nodded, and the trio exited the auditorium. Once outside, they separated. Cain went home while the other two headed to different parts of the lightning Imperial fort. On his way home, Cain thought of something and triggered his wave cloak before using wave focus to direct most of his astral wave into his legs. He intended to increase the astral wave around his legs to run faster. In theory, that made sense, but as Cain stomped the ground, he found himself jumping more than a meter before falling and rolling. It was not hard for Cain to understand what happened. The sudden rise in the strength of his legs made it so that instead of putting enough force to impulse his body forward, it was high enough to propel him into the air. In essence, Cain had the strength but could not use it properly. Strength without control is useless on the battlefield. That thought crossed Cain's mind before hearing laughs from a distance. Some cadets were laughing about his mishaps, and while it made Cain slightly embarrassed, he did not care too much and just flashed back to his home. Once there, he bowed to the altar with his father's picture, took a quick shower, and ate some food. While he would like to begin cultivating immediately, he was exhausted, so before anything else, he took a nap. An hour later, Cain awoke full of energy. An average human would have needed much more time to recover. However, not only was he a level 2 astral wave warrior, but he also possessed a powerful lineage that granted him vigorous vitality. Cain headed into the living room, took a container with Doc Race's blood, and continued training the Fiend Devourer cultivation technique. The hours passed as Cain trained, and he felt his meridians growing stronger. He only stopped after almost 8 hours before going to sleep. Although cultivation was boring, for someone like Cain, who spent month after month working hard the past years while receiving nothing, there was nothing better than feeling his cultivation increase by the hour. Besides, there were few things to do inside the Lightning Imperial fort, especially for cadets. Cain woke up when the first ray of sunlight appeared. He washed his face and ate something light before marching into the auditorium. Levi was already in the auditorium and sat in the same place yesterday. Cain headed there and nodded to the red-eyed youth before sitting by his side. A few minutes later, Beals entered the auditorium, and to the dismay and envy of many cadets, she chose to sit by Cain's side just like before. Cain and Levi nodded to Beals before closing their eyes. The duo was using the time to cultivate. While many others could consider their behavior rude, Beals liked it. She was sure that everybody else would barrage her with all sorts of questions, not because they care about the answer, but to get closer and force some kind of relationship. Compared to that, the duo, whose minds seemed to care only about cultivation, was a breath of fresh air. In the end, the trio sat silent as they enhanced their wave until the teacher finally arrived. The one that arrived was not Wink, but someone else. A short man, not more than 1.5 meters tall, with a robust body full of muscles. His long brown beard and bald head made him look like one of the dwarfs of the old world's fairy tales. But the truth was that just like Lumia's green skin, those physical characteristics were an effect of his bloodline. He stood in front of the auditorium and remained silent for a moment as he stared at the cadets. Despite his short stature, he unleashed an imposing aura that made everybody adopt a solemn expression.
My name is Razman. I will be your teacher for the Dark Race Assassination class.
Thank you for listening to the Age of Chaos audio story. Storyfy grows with listeners like you. Support the series by sharing it and join our Telegram for the latest updates.